Yeah, we're ready. Are you ready?
Yes, I am ready. I was born ready.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Hey guys, it's a great pleasure to meet you here at Web3 Amsterdam. Before we had a panel discussion where you two were panelists, I was so amazed by your background because I know that you used to work for Bitcoin Unlimited.
Yes.
So you have experienced the whole block size war, and I would like to give you the opportunity to teach the public about the history of the block size war.
Yes.
Before we do that, can you please shortly tell us your name, and then we can move into the topic.
Okay. So my name is Andrew Clifford. I'm the president of Bitcoin Unlimited, and we founded our organisation in November 2015. So we're coming up, this year will be our 10th year. So the organisation is strong, and it's supporting the Nexa coin, which is what we're working on.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm Andrea Suisani, and I'm a Nexa developer. I developed on the full node, Nexa full node, and various other projects in the Nexa space.
And since when were you working on Bitcoin itself?
Oh, it's a very long time, longer than I like to admit. At least 10 years. I was involved, like, let's say that I've started to actually work, like, doing stuff, coding for Bitcoin in 2015 when Bitcoin Unlimited started, but I was involved in crypto as a, users.
Yes.
Before that.
I got involved in the scaling debate right at the start, and at the beginning of 2013, there was the first discussion about the 1 megabyte not being enough. And at the time, Peter Wiley, who was the brains behind Blockstream and the core developers, he said the block size should be increased to 100 megabytes. And that's what he wrote on Bitcoin Talk in February 2013. And I was quite happy with that because of my background in IT. I knew from the start that that was too small for a currency for the world. And I think Satoshi knew that as well, because the original size that he allowed for was 32 megabytes. And then once many people started to use it in 2010, he became afraid of spamming attacks. So I think that's why he put in the 1 megabyte limit.
Yeah.
And at the time, he was doing all these unilateral code releases. He would change hundreds of lines of code at once, and no one would know, and bang, there'd be a new version. It was just like he was still in charge of the software. So he did this change quickly without consultation.
Yeah. But to be fair, in the subsequent time, it was pretty clear that once that enough traction would be involved in the chain, that the plan was to actually increase. He has even a pseudocode in one of his posts in bitcointalk.org. If blockade is higher than, I don't know, what was 110,000 or something, like the block size will increase. Anyway, the intention were clear. Unfortunately, after he left, wisely, if I may add, some kind of a parallel narrative start to, pop up here and there. There were Peter Todd that sponsored that famous animation, like a short animation.
Keep Bitcoin free.
Yeah.
So Peter Todd is an interesting person. He was involved in Bitcoin early on and was possibly the first person to say that the 1 megabyte should not be changed.
Yeah.
And no one really knows why. Maybe he can explain, but other developers like Gregory Maxwell started to say it should be 1 megabyte. So I was communicating to Gregory Maxwell and saying, look how much bandwidth has improved even since January 2009 to April 2013. The global bandwidth had been improving. We don't need to keep the 1 megabyte.
because the main reason that they had for proposing this to keep this constraint was that if you increase the block size, you would actually decrease the system decentralization, because you increase the cost of operating a node, the cost of any mining operation, and I can see their points, but they were so extreme that they pretend that we live in 1984 or something. Because if you think about it, 1 megabyte is the size of a floppy disk from the 80s, like even a little less than that.
Or a web page can be a megabyte now.
Yeah. So, yeah, it was always like very difficult to, interact with those people that at the end of the process, at a certain point, managed to actually took control of the code base. Because in the beginning, once Satoshi left, he gave the control to Gavin Andreessen, along with Jeff Garzik and other. Jeff Garzik was a Linux the kernel developer. They were very pro-scaling guy.
Yes.
But maybe because they were too naive, Gavin and Jeff were too naive or too good people, I don't know. But along the way, after a while, the people that was in charge were not Gavin anymore, but Gregory Maxwell,
Vladimir van der Laan.
And they were they feel very strongly about the way that Bitcoin is supposed to move forward. In their opinion, there were no space for more block space, because the decentralization otherwise would suffer immensely and we wouldn't have Bitcoin.
So they were worried about maintaining the decentralization of the network, and I think they came from a cryptographic background, like a hacker cryptographic background, where they wanted to be sure that Bitcoin couldn't be stopped by governments. And one thing would be to keep the block size small, and then that would stop, that would mean there would be thousands and tens of thousands of nodes, which is right. I mean, there's something like 60,000 nodes, public and private, and there's probably another 50,000 which people don't know about. So it's very decentralized, but the capacity is very low. But one other thing started to happen is that Blockstream was formed. And Blockstream was a for-profit company which had several of the core developers in, and it seems like having the Bitcoin constrained, that supported their Liquid protocol, which was a separate chain, which started to get lots of business in later years, and obviously the Lightning Network, which wasn't originally a Blockstream idea, but as soon as it was proposed, they grabbed it and said, this is what we should be doing. They wanted the idea of building like TCP. We have HTTPS built on top of TCP. They wanted layer 2 built on top of layer 1 of Bitcoin in the same way. But blockchains don't, the UTXO is so scalable that it doesn't have to scale in a layer 2 fashion. It can scale in a layer 1.
One curious thing though for the tech-savvy oriented people, in the Lightning Network white paper, they said that to support all the people in the world with Lightning, the block size should have to be increased to 133 megabyte.
And was that the white paper by Joseph Pond?
Yes. And the other guys that I'm sorry for everyone listening, but I'm not able to pronounce his name. I don't recall it, but it's two very smart guys.
Yes.
And for sure, I mean, the thing is that I'm not against L2 solution at all. The problem was that they put everything on that and don't let anybody else touch the protocol, because they were already a savior for the scaling. It was Lightning or Liquid or sidechain, so whatever it was. But
Okay, so according to you, if I can summarize this, Blockstream was founded on a for-profit motive.
Yes.
And in order to earn money for themselves, they actually blocked competing.
This could be
that is a fair conclusion.
This is an interpretation
Yes.
that fit the facts that we have in front of us.
Yes.
They raise money. If you raise money, the venture capitalists that put money in you expect a return. This is a fair thing. It is a fact. It's not something that we invent. We can say that the products that they had would have less value if Bitcoin would have been
scalable
in a Satoshi's fashion. That's it. So it could be everything, but those two facts is compatible with the interpretation that Andrews.
So we've got to move on a little bit. So we move on to Gavin Andreessen and Mike Hearn. So Mike Hearn persuaded Gavin that they needed to take action, and that's where Bitcoin XT was invented, and that had actually quite an aggressive block size. It was like 9 megabytes with an incremental increase every few minutes,
an
algorithmic increase. But they couldn't get enough people switching over to Bitcoin XT, and this is where the censorship wars happened. Because we had Thamos in charge of Bitcoin, Bitcoin on Reddit, and also he was moderator of Bitcoin Talk, and everyone like myself and Andrea who were arguing for the block size increase were finding our posts were being deleted. So we couldn't present our arguments to the community anymore.
Okay, so which year are we talking about?
2014 and late 2013, but mainly 2014.
2014 it was impossible to post anything about block size increase in the Bitcoin Reddit subreddit, and it also, even though the forum, the bitcoin.org forum, bitcointalk.org forum was very big, there were a lot of sections, and a bunch of them were, where people met each other online to discuss those kind of things. At a certain point, we had our own thread, which was called
Gold Collapsing Bitcoin
Up. Is where all the Bitcoin Unlimited people, met each other online. Was locked. We couldn't use it anymore.
So this would have been 2015. And we met up and we were communicating in 2015, trying to argue the case for larger blocks and scalability. Then they closed down our thread and we had to go to a separate forum. And then Andrew Stone decided to create his own fork of Bitcoin with the limits removed. And
the code of Bitcoin.
The code of Bitcoin.
Not
the ledger, but forking the code. And in fact, on GitHub, Bitcoin has been forked far more times than almost any other project, thousands of times. But he forked it and created Bitcoin Unlimited software, and then he co-founded the organization. I volunteered to become president, and it was a democratic organization, so I got voted in by the members, like Andrea and others. And we started to compete with Core, and we got support from miners. So we had donations from the community, Bitcoin community who wanted bigger blocks and scalability, and we had miners supporting us by using our software, and we actually had over 50% of the Bitcoin hash rate using our Bitcoin Unlimited software.
And what happened that caused the miners to turn away from?
This is a sad days.
An error in the code.
A bug in the code that lets you basically remotely shut down Bitcoin Unlimited code, more or less. We worked around that, but once, we put a lot of effort. Like in increasing, the scalability of the code. That means that you touch a lot of places. And since the code base was not something that we actually developed from scratch, it's something that someone else developed, and we were in a hurry. Actually, to be honest,
the reason that our software failed publicly was because of a test mode. So the entirety of the Bitcoin code base for a year or two had been running in a test mode. We thought it was running in a production mode, because it was a test mode. The assert function causes a failure.
It is a technical thing.
Yes.
Basically, it is a C++ code base, and inside the code you could put those kind of assertion, like say, if you are here, that means that this value has to be 1 and that variable has to be 2. Usually in production, those assertions, if they are not met, nothing happens. Like you go ahead, doesn't care, the software continue to run. In test mode, in debug mode, you want to catch those assertions right away, you know? And so as soon as that assertion is not met, boom, the software kill himself, just crash and assert, seg faulted. Basically what the core developer have done before we fork the code is to invert the logic. They said, since Bitcoin is so important, we want to get the full node crashing if an assertion is not met, even if it is in production. Yeah. And this is not how the things work.
No one does this normally.
It's not
in the real world.
It's not the way it used to work, and it's not even now. The assertions are just make crash a program in debug mode, not in production mode. Anyway, they inverted the logic, and this is why we got that crash, because we thought that we were using the usual standard for assertion, which was not the case. And anyway,
so we had a black hat person who realized that we didn't realize that Bitcoin was running in a test mode. So they found a way to trigger it, and they sent messages to lots of our nodes to cause them to fail. So it looked like we had a lot of nodes fail, and that reduced the confidence in the community and the miners in our software. So that was a major contributing factor to our high point and then heading off. And the other contributing factor was what's called the New York Agreement, where a bunch of miners, and this is where Roger Ver came into the picture, because he wanted it to scale. So he got people together in New York to come up with an agreement to get Bitcoin, a compromise. So SegWit, which was the core developer's solution to scalability, which made a small improvement, but it's not nearly enough. And they agreed to put that in.
But conditionally, after that, they should have increased the block size.
They were going to double it. They were going to double the block size.
So Roger was like, okay, we need to find a compromise. You want SegWit, I want block size increase. Okay, I'm so keen to have that I'm going to concede the SegWit, but you have to concede to me the double the block size after that. And this was basically the New York Agreement that never actually materialized, because they activated the SegWit and
they didn't do the other half.
Exactly.
I remember I watched the video of Andrea Suisani in 2016, I think. Around the time, and then he said that what's so beautiful about Bitcoin is the community can come together and reach agreements. So we have reached agreement about SegWit and block size. I was so happy when I...
Me too.
But this is interesting, because Antonopoulos, and I did manage to meet him once in 2015, he was originally for scaling, but I think he was one of these people who saw the effect of our nodes being attacked and thought, right, we better stick with core. And then he became very much against the scaling. So
toward the end, he was more than against, he just avoid to express.
He wouldn't discuss it. So we needed people like him to continue to make the argument, but people like him, and there were others, stopped making the argument.
But it has to be one thing has to be clear. During that period of time, if you were involved, also like a user, not even a developer,
Yes.
it was very stressful.
You'd be attacked socially on
yeah,
social
it was
media.
there were an environment that was very aggressive. It was very it was not a good place to be. It was not a good place to be, and we went through that. It was traumatic, if you want to call it.
Okay, so the New York agreement was 2016. Yeah?
2017, I think it was
in the beginning of 2017.
No, it was about May 2017, and
Can you run me through to the events that happened in Arnhem, because I remember it was a huge conference.
Yes.
Yeah, scaling Bitcoin.
Yeah, indeed.
yes.
Can you tell me what happened there? Because I think that's also where I realized it is impossible to find consensus.
Right. So this is where we had a Maori Shay on our team, but he was very much attacking what we were doing behind our backs, saying to miners, saying to Roger Ver that what we were doing was the wrong approach. And then he created his own fork of Bitcoin, which ultimately became called Bitcoin Cash, and he presented that at the Arnhem conference.
The Bitcoin ABC.
Yeah, yes. So he created his own team and his own coin, and at the time, the people who wanted scaling, we didn't want to create 2 or 3 separate big block versions that were then incompatible, because then we've just split our own ranks. So we found ourselves in a position where we had to support what he was doing or support the core people.
And so we decided to go with
what he was doing, at least to try.
Because the initial goal was to actually win the war even after the split, and then make it so that people think that the BTC, the Bitcoin thing, was Bitcoin Cash, or better, the protocol that has bigger block. And for a certain period of time, we were like BCH in the beginning. He reached something like thousands, like few thousands, 2 or 3,000 in values. But how the thing went, and that was not the case. And BCH is still alive, and they are. I don't know what is the valuation.
See, and this is the important thing, is that BCH has struggled against Bitcoin as the valuation is, less than 1%, and has been like that. That means the hash rate has been less than 1%.
Yes.
And that means any of the Bitcoin big mining pools could 51% Bitcoin Cash. So I think that has kept a permanent lid on the Bitcoin Cash value, because for all this time it's been sharing the hashing algorithm with Bitcoin.
Yes.
So the security model is broken for Bitcoin Cash, and that's a big problem for it, I think.
Yeah.
And then you already talked a lot, and we're still until 20.
I know.
There's so much more to talk, but I want to give an opportunity to also explain to the public how all of this eventually emerged into Nexa.
Okay.
Yes.
I will go first, because then I have to leave. I have to take a plane. So basically, to make a long story short, we decided to start Nexa because, in our opinion, there were no project that were able to actually fulfill what Satoshi wrote in the white paper, which meant being an electronic peer-to-peer cash for the world. On top of that, we thought that having token as a first citizen in our blockchain, validated at the base layer, along with a higher capabilities in terms of expression of our scripting system, was a must to have in this environment. And so we take the decision of create Nexa, which is basically Bitcoin on steroids. We actually achieved 50,000 transactions per second in a test that we made. We have a bunch of nodes scattered across the world: Italy, Germany, Canada, East Asia, and we achieved that using the technology that we have developed. Like graphene, it's a for example an algorithm developed at UMass in the US that we implemented, and that increased dramatically, decreased dramatically, the block propagation time. So if you have very big blocks, you need to actually transmit very low amount of information in the moment that you find a new block. And you leverage the fact that all the nodes have the same transaction there, mempool. There are a bunch of very, very nice trick that we have. It's not trick, they are, computer science thing, but they are very good. It's something that people that are that if they are curious, that they are tech savvy, they could have a look. They are very nice.
Before you leave,
Yeah.
I would like to ask you one final question.
Sure.
So, what is the thing that you're most hopeful for next time? What are you also feeling excited about?
What I want for our world is to world in terms like world, not crypto world, our world, have a meaning of exchange that let people to transact with each other without asking for permission to anybody. This is why I'm here right now, and then I was there since 2015, because I really do think that if you are not free to transact and you need permission to do that, you're not actually free. That's it. You could have all the rights that you want on paper, like freedom of speech, freedom of association, but assume that your bank account right now and your cards are frozen. What you're going to do? You have to stay here. You can't buy your ticket to get home. You can't buy your food. You can't call a lawyer because you don't have money.
No.
That's the way. That's the thing that happened all over the world, because people doesn't realize that the money that we have in a digital form right now, in the bank, in our credit card, are not our money. I mean, they are our money until they let you use it. But once they decided it is not, not the case anymore, they're not your money. So I would like to have some project, and I think Nexa has all the characteristics to achieve that, provide that solution to the world.
Thank you very much, Andrea.
It was a pleasure. Yeah. I have to leave.
Okay.
So it was a pleasure, and yeah.
Thanks for coming, and
Yeah.
we'll talk soon. It's good seeing
Yeah,
you
good to
again.
see you.
Good to see you again. Okay.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye, everybody. Bye.